there, folks. This is kind of a tradition now of me hosting a grad panel. I'm a professor. I taught at... I teach at Seneca. I taught at Sheridan for the past couple years as well, but now I'm just at Seneca. And the fun thing for me is having a panel here where it's some of my graduates. So some of these students we helped birth into the animation industry, and now they're out there and they're doing good things. Now they can share a little bit of how they got their first job. Because in this year, these guys, whether I know them or not, some of them are new faces, and they're brilliant, they're exciting. But they have these jobs out here in the world, and they're going to share a little bit about what they did to get these jobs with you guys, so that maybe if you're looking for your first job, or your second job, or you just want to hear some raunchy stories, then they'll tell you some of that as well. So my name is Barnabas, I'm the chair of TAAFI, I'm hosting this, and I'm going to give it over, because it's not about me, folks, it's about them. It's about them, Alex. It's not about you, it's about them. So on the panel here, we got Brandon up first. Brandon, tell us a bit about you.
Hello.
What school did you go to, and where are you working now, and what are you doing?
I went to Durham College in Oshawa. Right now I'm working at Ubisoft Toronto as a motion capture editor. And yeah. Is there another question?
That was beautiful.
Perfect.
Okay, up next we got Felicia. Yeah, use your big voice. Good, thank you. Up next we got Gina.
Hello. So I'm Gina. I work at Mercury Filmworks, and I graduated from Seneca College for the 2D stream.
And what do you do at Mercury?
I'm a 2D animator.
Great. We got DJ coming up next.
Hi, I'm DJ. I graduated from Loyalist Animation's Loyalist College's animation program, which is a 3-year-long program, and I am a production manager, character designer, and storyboard artist.
We got Allie. Allie up next.
Hi, I'm Allie. I'm a 2D animator at Portfolio, and I'm from Sheridan College, just graduated, and Concordia University before that in Montreal.
And we got Victoria up next. She didn't bring her cat. She got a lovely cat, but she didn't bring it, which is too bad. Victoria, what's your deal?
First of all, I'm sorry. But I'm Victoria, and I went to Sheridan College, and I'm a 2D animator at Pipeline Studios.
Up next we got Colleen, folks. Coleen's here.
Hi, I'm Colleen. I work at Mr. X, and I'm a roto prep artist.
Colleen, where are you from? What school?
Oh, I'm from Loyalist, sorry.
Loyalist. We got Sedona.
Hi, I'm Sedona. I'm a 3D animator at Ubisoft, and I study game development at UOIT and then animation at Durham College.
So basically, the first topic up here with these panelists, these fine humans, are going to share with you is how they got their first job and what they think was key in getting that first job. Was it skills? Was it at the right time at the right moment? Was the studio really hungry for somebody? What's the deal? How'd you get your job?
I think it was a combination of all those things, actually. So I was actually at a talk that Ubisoft was giving at Durham College. They were talking about the animation program that they have, and I just split snap decision, decided I could go to lunch, or I could go and talk to this guy that was going to present, and just like, all right, I'm going to go talk to that guy, and I know for a fact that that's the only reason why I'm working at Ubisoft now, because then later he contacted me, and yeah, like scanned my resume and everything, went through the hiring process.
So it's just from attending one talk that you kind of made that connection?
Which is kind of like, I want to return that here, you know, chill and see some cool people.
So somebody watching this talk, you'll get them a job.
Ooh, what?
Maybe not yet.
Come talk to me. For that.
But that's good. That shows you how just, watching one panel and making that connection is so important, possibly for your career. Thanks, Brandon.
take a question?
Yeah, why not? Let's give it a shot.
I pretty much got really, really lucky because one of our professors, she manages this book, and she taught our class, and like a couple of professors, so they're also like supervisors in other studios, so we got like connections with them. You do well in class, they see you that goes up, I guess it's kind of really, really close.
Yeah, so if you have a professor that directly hires you for a studio, that does occur.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So that's good. So you're basically, your professor was looking for somebody, you were a warm body that was interested.
Oh,
Did you have the skills or just,
I don't know.
you don't know?
Just stupid,
So he's looking for a compositor and you were like, I like compositing.
That's me.
Yeah. Cool, fantastic. Yep. Gina, what's the deal?
So for me, things kind of like snowballed a little bit because when I was in my second year, I watched the show Star Wars: The Forces of Evil, and I was like, oh my god, the show is amazing! Who produced the show? And they were like, oh, this studio called Mercury, and I was like, I'm gonna email them. So I emailed Jefferson, and he was like, oh, you want to work here? Okay, send me your stuff. And then I sent him my stuff, and he's like, do you want a test? And I was like, yeah, I want a test. And
This
then
is
I
in
took the test.
second year or this is while you're in third year?
So that was like at the end of second year, mid third year, like almost starting third year. So I did the test, and around like January, February, he was like, yeah, cool, come down. And I was like, but I'm in Toronto. And then, so I kind of had to like make them wait a little bit, which made me feel real bad. But they were super nice about it, and they waited for me, and now I'm there. So it worked out.
And so you wanted to work there specifically because of the projects they worked on, or they do?
Yeah, because I really liked how they animated Star Wars: The Forces of Evil, and then I realized that they also did Wonder Over Yonder, and those two shows were very, very high quality for me, and the reason why I got into the animation program was because I wanted to do really high quality animation, and I really loved like the old 2D movies. Like I grew up watching like The Last Unicorn and kind of the Phantom Toll Booth and all of the old shows that weren't necessarily Disney, but I really liked how the animation flowed. And when I saw Mercury Star, I was like, oh, they're doing rigs, but it still feels that way. It still feels old school. So I was super inspired by that. It's like, that is what I want to do with my career. So right off the bat, I was like, that is the studio that I want to apply to. So I focused myself in school to be good enough to get into that studio. And for that.
So basically just being persistent and having good animation got you that job.
Yeah, so I don't know if persistent would be, because I only emailed them once and then they were like, they responded really quickly because they're nice.
So emailing the right person is crucial.
Yeah, they have like a email on their webpage that says, email here if you want a job, and you're good.
Okay, good. DJ.
So basically how I got my job at TAAFI is I didn't know that the studio even existed before I applied. We actually had an assignment in Loyalist third year where we get a group together and we all find we have to come up with 40 studios in Canada to basically list down and then write down all the contact info, and then as a group we share that list. And TAAFI just happened to be on that list, and I'd never heard of them before. So I actually ended up looking them up, and previously the year before I attended a Leica panel, and I got very interested in the development for stop motion. And so on TAAFI's demo was actually a lot of stop motion production work, and there was actually a really wide breadth of animation, stop motion, motion graphic, like the whole kind of shebang. And so I was very interested in kind of getting into that because I myself am also very all over the place in terms of my my likes and my
And in terms of this answer too. So what was crucial in getting you that job? What do you think?
Basically, because I'm all over the place in terms of the kind of work that I enjoy, my website and my demo reel have me listed as a generalist. So I do 2D, I do 3D, I do storyboarding, character design, animation. I do kind of all of it. And so when I got my internship at TAAFI, I was kind of filling all of the roles that nobody really had time to kind of fill at the moment. And I was doing them to the speed that was, that actually I think really got me noticed, I hope. But they actually wanted to keep me on so much that they allowed me to work from home for a month to basically get the funds together to move to Toronto full-time. And now I am doing basically the same thing where I do, I'm now a production manager on one of the main IPs. So I think what was crucial to me getting the job was being able to fill multiple roles instead of just one specialty, because I'm a jack of all trades, but not necessarily a master of all.
And is that a small studio you're in?
It's quite small, yeah.
How many people work there?
We have two studios and one sister publication, and in the animation side, I believe we're about 20 in the Toronto one.
Yep.
So being able to fill a lot of roles basically cemented my space in that company.
Cool. Being a generalist. Important. Allie, how'd you get hired?
I knew somebody who worked there. When I was doing my internship in LA at 6 Point Harness, one of the women who was there I became friends with, and it turns out she was also from Toronto, and she was a teacher at Sheridan, and we bonded. And once I finished my 4th year, I had this demo reel, and I told her I was looking for work, and she said, "Oh, we're hiring. I'll pass your stuff on to my boss." And I met the boss, and we got along great. And just a positive attitude, a good demo reel, and also who you know is really important. So just be nice to everybody. You never know where they could lead you.
So sorry, who was it that you knew?
Sarah Wallace.
Okay. So one of your teachers.
One of my teachers. She wasn't my teacher.
No.
I met her at 6 Point, but she just so happened to teach.
Yeah. So again, the cool thing about something like TAAFI here is you're meeting a lot of people, whether you like it or not. And some of those people that that you might go to school with, or you might just run into or talk to here, and those are your network. And growing your network helps you get those jobs. I know myself, during the teacher strike, I teach at Seneca College, then I was like, I should probably do some freelance or something. And just because I knew people, then I ended up working on Corner Gas for the remainder of the season. So who you know is possibly the most important thing. Who do you know? Victoria. And why did you get your job?
So I got my job from Industry Day at Sheridan, so a lot of studios came to look at our work, and one of them was interested in offering me an interview for 2D animating, and because I had taken all the 2D classes at Sheridan, I was familiar with the software, and I was able to have a demo reel with that, some stop motion and stuff like that. And I also think attitude played a big role, because once you get into the interview, you need to make a good impression at the interview. So I think just being really personable and making a good first impression, I think, is a big part of what maybe made me stand out over some other applicants. So.
Not being a creep?
Yeah, that helps.
Now, did you get hired on Industry Day or the interview day afterwards, or how long did it take?
So I got an email for an interview after they met with me on Industry Day, and then it was probably a week or two after that I got my interview date, and then a week or so after that they made the offer.
So you think it's going to work that way for Pipeline again this year?
Hopefully. I know we're hiring, so.
See how it goes. Okay, perfect. Colleen, what's the deal?
Alrighty, so I was in class one day, about 3 months before graduating, and I just was on Indeed, and I saw all of these job listings. It was like super booming for the industry back then, and I was just like, you know what, I didn't graduate yet, but screw it, I'm gonna apply. So I saw the position for Mr. X for road paint prep artist, so basically applied for it through their website, like it linked to the website. And when it said, why do you want to work here, I didn't give like some generic answer. I actually checked out the website, and then I saw the demo reel. And in it, it had clips of Carrie, like the movie, and it was showing what they did, and it was like, to me, it was like so gorgeous, and I was all like, I want to work for you because this was really good, and I want to do that kind of work. So I made sure my email like conveyed that, and then it takes a while to hear back from them if they're gonna like do interviews or stuff. So after like a month, I got like an email back from Graham, my manager, and he was all like, we want to do interview. And I think a big part of it too was having a good demo reel. Your projects are important, but your demo reel is more important than your project. I'm not saying you shouldn't like screw your grades, but like your demo reel should be the most important thing to come out of your, basically your course. So I did the interview, I was really eager, I was all like, I just want to be there and I just want to absorb all this information, like I'll learn whatever I can. So then I got hired basically, and then I started working at a job where I knew nothing about it. The first day they basically had to teach me everything, so it worked out all in the end.
So Colleen, basically doing a bit of research about where you're applying to was giving maybe the upper edge. The same thing with Gina, is like she knew what they did and she knew that she wanted to do that kind of thing. So doing that research then gives you a little bit of conversation to kind of set the hook into, you're not just saying, I want a job, but I want a job with you because, and you think that was an important part.
Yeah, like I know it's hard when you there's 40 jobs to apply for and you don't want to do a personalized letter for each one. You just want to do like a form, but it's really important to add the personalized touch because they get so many submissions and so many like job requests. So you just want to make sure that, hey, I'm passionate about this job, hire me.
Great, thank you. And Sedona, what's your deal?
Okay, so are we talking my first job? Like my very first out of college job?
Your next job. Yeah, your first one.
Okay, just making sure, because I've had this is my third.
Yeah.
So I should mention, none of those were my fault. Okay, so my first job was at Art Productions. So if anyone knows, that's not my fault. So to preface, I started at a game dev school that advertised itself as well-rounded, and it wasn't. And so I went back to school to really strengthen the art side of things. And in my second year at Durham College, which is a 3-year course, I had to actually stop at my second year because I was out of money. And I had to stress to all of my teachers and said, look, I have to graduate this year, and I have to have a reel ready for people this year, or I will be absolutely like SOL. I need to get out there. So stressing that to my teachers, I focused on everything that I could, and it was still a very well-rounded course, but I had to essentially figure out which of those things was going to blow up in my face the least, because I'm sure most of you, like the colleges, will cover modeling and printing and rendering and animation, and the thing that hated me the least was animation. So as was mentioned earlier, I said screw the grades, and I just focused on making the best animation reel I could, because honestly, like everything else was crashing on me. So I felt it was a sign that I needed to just focus on that one thing. And I went to my student showcase for my college and ended up being approached by a hiring manager from Art Productions who gave me his personal card. It wasn't even a recruiting card, it was just, here, I want to contact me. And I got a job shortly after that and worked on a bunch of really cool projects. And it was a blast, and then it died.
So okay, we're gonna ask these guys one more question, then we'll kind of open it up for your guys' questions. Because if you're trying to get your first job or trying to land your next job, they may have some of those insights. But the next question I'm gonna ask you guys, and we don't have to go in any particular order, although we could, is basically, do you have any tips, or do you have any horror stories, or do you have anything that was awkward when you were applying for a job that you wish you wouldn't have done, or that you would have done differently, so it didn't end up that way? Is there anything that's awkward or wrong with what you did, or could you just do it differently?
I guess I'll go first. I'd like to think that there isn't anything, just because I did get hired, so I guess I did something right? But that interview process that I went through at Ubisoft was a 2-hour, 4-person interview, and that was super intimidating because oh god, this is like the most intense thing I've gone through so far. Because like the first thing I did was like Eastside Mario's, right? And it was like one person, and they're just like, "You want this job?" So I was super intimidated. When I went there, I started talking to people, and they turned out they're just like me, and just like the same kind of things, just finding something to relate to. In this case, it was somebody wearing a DJ's hat, so I started talking about sports for a while. And at that point, I was like, "This is going pretty good." I've related to it in some way. So, if anything, maybe I would dress a bit nicer, maybe? Because like I went in what I'm wearing now, and I feel like maybe I could present myself a little bit, but like that's doesn't matter at all.
But you think maybe being relaxed is key to some of these things, and just being ready for an onslaught of 4 people grilling you?
Yeah. I was very ready, I think, for them to grill me, because that's what I expected. It turned out that they were all really chill. They wanted to make me as comfortable as possible, and I think that's probably the same across most of the industry. I mean, I can't really say because I'm not really intense interview, but everybody that I've run into at the place I work at, they say that, yeah, you know what, just kind of go into it for yourself, relax. It's probably a huge thing, which I should take my own advice right now because I'm not very good at this work. But yeah, just chill, just go in there, answer all the questions to the best of your ability, don't lie to yourself.
I'll tell you a story, not that it's about me, but here's what you don't do if you're trying to pitch a comedy show to CTV. Is what you don't do is you dress up in costumes and then parade around outside with the Trojan beaver and then try to go in through the gates and storm them that way without announcing it, because they don't like it and then they don't come down to meet you as well. So I did that one time when I had a comedy show and they didn't like that. And you learn that, maybe sometimes you have to play by their rules because your rules are a little bit weird and awkward. Something to think about. Who else has awkward stories? Oh, lovely, yeah, Sedona.
To kind of continue on one of the things I'm saying, because I'm assuming that most of you still kind of the first job that you got since you graduated? Okay, so there's a few of you, so yes and no. So that's a good a thing I really want to stress is a lot of these jobs are very unstable and very impermanent, and you have to keep that in mind. Like, this might not necessarily be your forever job, and don't be afraid to like branch out and consider looking elsewhere. Like, I definitely was having phone interviews with like Icon in Vancouver and stuff like that. There's a lot of other studios, and you should definitely not limit yourself to being just in this city. And again, I'm I guess, yeah, the first 2 positions that I had, like both projects ended very abruptly and for completely different reasons. Like in one case, it was the Toys R Us bankruptcy hit our animation studio. Like that, there's so many things that can impact a project that you just have to kind of be on your toes, keep your demo reel constantly up to date, keep making things better because you never know when you're going to have to go find something else.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, is keeping that demo reel up to date and constant. If you're in a studio and you're working on something, you're like, hey, I like that. A lot of times I'll be working on something and I'll be like, oh, I like that, and then instantly forget about it. And then if you have to go months later and try to find that shot, good luck, because you have a billion shots that you went through. So I think part of that is when you're working on a production, if you see something that you like, that you're working on, that you're proud of, then pull that out into a separate folder on the computer and say, this is for my demo reel, and then when you have to cut that together, then it's a lot easier to do it. I don't do that. I should.
I didn't do that, and I could not find work because I only had my student reel and none of my shows were out when art closed, so.
Oh, and to add on to that, if I may, if there's anybody that you know who's like the render artist or something, the render wrangler or whatnot, make friends with them, because when you're in a bind, you just like copy a reel real quick, give you some shots or whatever, just ask permission, right? But then they can really get something that you can actually use for potential future opportunities.
To add on to
Yes, Alex.
to add on, I'm not going to talk about bad interviews because I don't want to say that I've never had one, but I've had a lot of jobs before the animation industry in terms of part-time work and working in retail and all that stuff. And in my second year, I also was working in an animation studio, and third year did internships. So when it comes to job interviews, I think success is knowing that they already have you in the studio with them, and they already have you there to talk to, which means that they've already seen your work, and that means they like it. So this isn't about trying to prove yourself as an artist anymore. You, going into that interview, they want to see someone that they can work with. And also it's up to you to see if this is someone you want to work with too. So it's kind of like a two-way street. So if you treat it as someone looking at you and judging you for everything that comes out of your mouth, then you're going to be intimidated and you're going to reflect something that maybe isn't you. So, know that they're having you in with you. That means they like your work, and be confident and, be you and just have a conversation with somebody. It's not talking to a boss or talking to a stranger you don't know. This is somebody you're probably going to work with and somebody, you're going to make a good impression on, hopefully. So just, keep the nerves at bay and treat it like you're having a conversation with a friend or someone who will maybe one day be your friend.
Future friend. Yeah, Gina.
So to kind of build up on that, I know that some of the stories that they've been saying is really scary. They're saying things are gonna blow up and you're gonna fail at school, so just concentrate at something. I kind of want to go the other route because for me, school was really great and I learned a lot and I was very focused on doing well at school, but also having enough of time to do my own demo reels. So I think that really helped me particularly in getting really good at time management. And for me, that is what makes my job good because I can manage my own time and I don't have to stress about it and I have control over everything I do. And I think being in school and doing all of my assignments and being on top of my assignments and doing everything in a certain regular pace helped me control what I do and how I do it at the time. So usually I know that animation jobs have a lot of hours that you have to put in, but it's not necessarily the truth because what they want is for you to work smart, not to work hard. So as long as you do your work with high enough quality, you don't have to do it 20 times. You don't have to put that line down 20 times to get the one that you want. If you have already thought the process through, you only need to do it once and you need to do it good, and that will be enough. For me, the interview process was really great and really easy because I was very enthusiastic about what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. The first question I remember very clearly was, why do you want to work here? Because obviously I am from Toronto because I went to Seneca. So the job that I have right now is in Ottawa, so I had to move. So they were like, why would you want to come here? And I was like, because this is the kind of stuff that I would see myself doing, and that's what my focus was. So I want to say to you guys that don't just focus on one area because you don't know what you're going to end up doing. And it'll make you a better animator or a better character design if you know each of the areas. So I know that your guys are saying that grades aren't important, but they are because they give you a certain estimate on how you're doing and how that you will produce a level of quality that will be acceptable at a studio. Because even though you might think that you are doing great, even though your grades are bad, it's well, then your teacher doesn't think that you're doing great, so maybe you should up the quality, maybe you should work a little bit harder, but don't put in a crazy amount of hours to just try and make your best. Just try to think about how you can use your time wisely, but don't forsake any of the other things because everything is a learning experience. And going to college, we pay to go to college, so it's good to take every little experience that you can and turn it into yourself because you're going to learn something from it. Even if it's a bad job that ends abruptly, you still learn and you still gain experience, and now you know how to kind of go on from there. And not every experience is bad or awkward. It just gives you something to learn and to grow from. So I don't want to say it's a horror story because it's not, and the industry isn't as scary as you guys are thinking right now. And some of these jobs are unstable, but some of them aren't. And there's other jobs my job. I didn't know until the interview that we had job security. So that was a big plus for me. I was like, really? You guys have job security? That is the best. My fear was having to jump from job to job, and that stability was kind of oh my god, what am I going to do now? Because you guys don't want to worry every single time that your show is empty. So even though a demo reel is important, focus on your job and don't think that your job is going to end right off the bat because I have other friends that have graduated concentrate on one thing, because if you put all your eggs in one basket, if that basket falls, then you're without a job, you're without options, you're just like in the middle of, something you don't know what to do. So just kind of take.
Or your eggs might rot too.
True enough. So yeah, I just wanted to like clear that, because it sounds scary, but it's not really scary. And you guys, everybody has the potential to be a really great artist, and it's like sad if you just concentrate on one area when you don't know that you might blossom in another one if you don't give it a chance.
Thank you, Gina.
I just have a quick piece of advice. Proofread everything you send out when you apply. This sounds obvious, but I myself sent a cover letter to a studio with the name of another studio and how much I wanted to work for this other studio. Yeah. They were very nice about it. They understood that it's a busy time and you're applying to a lot of studios. But I would recommend not doing that and really take that extra minute to read it out loud, read it more than once, and then press send, because once you press send, it cannot come back. So that would be my advice when you're applying. And make sure your links work. Very important.
Two good pieces, thank you.
I've kind of got one. It's a little bit more or less about when you're applying, but more so about when you're first getting your foot out there into your first job or your first internship. Transparency between your coworkers and your employers is key. Luckily, my only mishap with that was incredibly minor. My very first day, they asked me, hey, can you set up your own Cintiq? I had never touched one before in my life, and I was like, how hard could that be, really? Like, yeah, sure, I'll go ahead and set that up. They also wanted me to set it up on a Mac, and I wasn't particularly well-versed in Apple anything, so I sat down for like 45 minutes trying to figure out this one small task, basically. And luckily they didn't have anything for me to do at that moment, which I'm pretty sure they just stuck me in a corner to set up a Cintiq just to keep me busy. But being able to be honest and transparent with your employers and your coworkers about where your skill set currently stands is really, really important. Don't agree to do work that you're not entirely sure that you're able to do at the moment. Same goes for when you're applying. Don't put stuff on your resume that you aren't 100% behind. Because the worst way to start out a working relationship with anybody is for them to give you a task and then you don't deliver, basically, because they put their trust in you to do that task, and you need to basically you need to show them that you stand behind your own work.
So I would say your internships are also important. Like, you should try different internships. You never know, you might end up at a place and you might end up hating it. I had an internship for 3D animation for like architect, and it turned out at the end, like, I hated it. Like, I did not want to be there. And what happened was, I remember I was just like, I felt overwhelmed. I also want to say it's also really important to, like, if you feel overwhelmed or if you feel like, oh, I just don't understand that, you should ask questions. Like, it looks better to your employer if you say, hey, I don't get this, can you explain it? Instead of saying, yeah, I can do this, no problem. Sure, you might feel like a superstar, you might sound good for a minute, but then later they'll be like, where's the work? And you'll be like, oh no, I can't do it actually. I've also sent a letter to a company and sent the wrong animation studio. I did not hear back from them, so.
If I could just add on to that as well. I started as a motion capture editor. Had no idea what that was. Absolutely not a clue. The only thing I knew about motion capture was the neoprene suits with the little dots all over it. And I'm like, that sounds fun, right? And yeah, so I went into it going like, hey guys, I have no idea what I'm doing with this. And they were like, yeah, no, we'll teach you, train you everything. So yeah, don't be super intimidated by that. If that comes by, just be super thankful and take it and run with it. that's my 2 cents.
Nice. Do you want to open it up from questions in the audience? You guys have questions about these people with jobs? You want to glean from them? Water from a stone? Yeah? Do we have a mic? Do we have TAAFI mics? No? Okay, great. Shout it out. Yeah.
Thanks. Because you were telling about this when you go to a work and you say, yeah, I could do that, and I could do that also, and also that, but then they ask you to do stuff. Do you think that you were feeling super sure in your first interview about, yes, I can do all this stuff?
Okay,
No worries.
Totally answer that. On my first job, I was working at a studio in Montreal, just out of second year at Sheridan. I didn't even have my internship yet. I was just gunning for something in the industry because, why not? And so they were like, oh, you are from Sheridan and you are a 2D Toon Boom animator. I had open Toon Boom maybe for one class. Like, they sent me a test to do it, and I had a week and a half, I think, before I graduated to do it. So that was when projects are due. Everybody's kind of working on their own stuff, but meanwhile, I'm like, I need another job. So I opened up this file and literally frame by frame animated every piece. Like Toon Boom, you're supposed to animate frame 1, whatever, next one, and then use Toon Boom to your advantage. I was like, no, I'm going to take every single piece and then frame by frame animate this character so that it can walk in and do what it has to do. And it was good enough to get me a job, and I showed up to do this show and did not know what I was doing, but you learn along the way, so I think I might have to refute what something was said, to just pretend and then ask your neighbors, and you'll do a good enough job.
I agree. I spent probably the first 3 weeks feeling like, oh, this was a mistake. I don't know what I'm doing. Oh my God, we've all made a mistake. It's okay. We'll realize it was a mistake, and we'll move on from this. But I asked a lot of questions, and I learned, and I got better, and I got faster, and now I feel completely comfortable. That took like a month, but yeah, it doesn't start off feeling comfortable. You will feel scared. You will feel like, I don't know what I'm doing. But if you ask questions and if you do your best, then you will get there and you will feel comfortable eventually. So even if you are prepared, you still probably won't feel prepared until you put in a little more time and you can get comfortable.
Yeah, just lie your way there.
Yeah, your first job is always the hardest, or starting a new show is always really hard too. And whenever I bounce around to a studio and start something, it's always overwhelming, especially the first day. Because you don't know what you're doing. You're getting your baby feet in there and you're trying to figure it out. And eventually, yeah, you ask questions or you screw stuff up, and then people say, that's not how you do things, you do it like this. And you're like, oh, that's how you do it. But you learn so much at that job as opposed to school. School, you're learning like this. You get a job and you're like, holy shit. And then you have to learn like that to get the level that everybody else is. So, you know, within that crazy growth, then sure, you have to fake it or figure it out or, you know, crash and burn sometimes. But you'll get there as long as you are passionate and you're going to go for it. So, good question.
I'm constantly basically doing that, is to figure, because I do so many different positions in my studio, it's constantly someone showing up at my desk and out of the clear blue sky being like, hey, can you do sound? And I go, maybe.
Why not?
And so, but I'm always really transparent about going about that. I always ask, like, when does this need to be due? Is this urgent? Because I'll need a little bit of time in order to verse myself on how this basically works. And usually what I'll do is I'll do a quick 15-minute route around the studio and talk to people who normally do that job and be like, hey, so you're normally doing this. Can you give me a little bit of a rundown on how this pipeline maybe normally works, because me and sound are like strangers. And so I learned a lot of my jobs basically by doing that, and consulting Professor Google about a fair amount of things, but I'm always really like forthcoming about things that I'm not entirely well versed in, just so that the person who is trusting me with this job knows that it's not, this is my first time basically doing stuff like this, but I always put 100% of the effort into doing that one thing. You never half-ass the job that comes out of the clear blue sky. And it's always worked out for me. I'm not super well versed in a whole bunch of the jobs that I do actually. Production manager kind of just landed on me, like a UFO, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess this is my life now. I'll just roll with this and learn as I go, and I'm basically kind of shadowing other production managers at work to kind of see how this pipeline works. So totally take on work that you're not totally, I would say, well versed in. Like, don't just shoot down work that kind of falls out of the sky if it needs to be done, because you don't know what you're going to be good at until it actually happens. Because I didn't know I was good at production managing until someone was like, hey, are you the production manager on this project? And I went, no. And they're like, but doesn't everything come through you? And I went, oh God, I'm the production manager on this project. So you never know, right? So yeah, take on work that you might not necessarily know how to do, but don't lie and say that you're good at it at first.
Take chances. It's good. Other questions?
Sorry, just one.
You already had one. So many people here.
I know, sorry.
Go.
No, just because I was expecting more stop motion in this fair, and every time I do motion now, I'm super excited. So today, I'm really interested in your studio. What's the name again?
It's TAAQUT, so T-A-Q-Q-U-T, and it's primarily a studio that takes, it's an Inuit-based animation and production company. So it's a lot of mythology, like dark fantasy stuff, and on the other side, it's a lot of children's education stuff, which is the best, mixed bag of things.
Thank you. And they're downstairs if you want to interview with them. Other questions? Yes, yes.
Do you like working in the animation?
Do you like working in the animation industry? This softball question was.
Yeah. So addressing that question, working in the animation industry is very, very fun. Even though apparently it doesn't sound like it, and I feel like I'm kind of like in the wrong panel, because all I've had is really good experiences, and there's no horror stories for me. But working in the industry for me has been very, very satisfying and very fun, and I've been able to learn a lot. Even though I've only been working for about 7 months-ish, but I've learned a lot, and it's a lot of fun, and every day I wake up and I look forward to go to work, and I'm super psyched because I love the show that I'm on. I'm on Lion Guard, so I love the songs, I love the characters, I love the animation, and I'm just such a nerd right now with this show. I never thought, because it's a kid's show, right? And you think nah, it's a kid's show, I'll just animate it and it'll be cool. But no, I'm just I'm so into this show, and I'm so happy about it. So for me, working in the industry is so much fun, and just feel every day I feel like I'm doing something productive. For me, at least. It doesn't seem like that.
So to kind of build on what you were saying, I should really stress, I love my job, and I've loved most of the things that I've worked on. My first job, I was really lucky to end up on Troll Hunters, which is essentially my dream job because it's DreamWorks and it's Guillermo del Toro, and I loved it, but I absolutely burnt out on it. I was really lucky, I had a really good community, but I do think that it has a lot to do with the environment that you are part of, because I have times where, currently I love going to work, but I've also had jobs where I'm absolutely exhausted due to a variety of things, be it project mismanagement, just insane overwork, toxic work environments, they do happen. So much of loving a job it can be chasing a project. I've had friends who like leave really awesome, like stable jobs to chase projects because that's what they love. And then I've also had people who are just looking for something a little more stable and are looking for a 40-hour work week. And I would say right now, like, this is the most relaxed I've been since university, since I started this current job, because Troll Hunters was perpetual 48 and 60-hour work weeks, but I loved it. So yeah, I want to say, like, I did have a blast on it, and I do love the industry, but I also like being critical of the industry, because there are things that the industry should be improving upon. Like, there needs to be a lot more push for self-care. You shouldn't crunch crazy amounts, it's not healthy, and I really think that a lot of Canadian companies should be credited more appropriately on American TV shows, and like, I have so many shows that I just don't have my name on because America. So it's a mix of, like, I love it, but I want to see it become better. So yeah.
I think the animation industry is a fun industry to be in. It's definitely a job. I mean, a job is a job. It's great that we get to make cartoons and we get to draw and we get to do what we love, but there's this weird fine line between knowing that you're doing what you love and having to do what you love to survive. So, I mean, being able to do what we love on the side after work and stuff, I think is what kind of keeps you going if you really are passionate about it. But just know that you're going to go to work every day. It's not, I don't know what you're doing at Mercury, but it's not going to be like, all joy every day. You're going to have really, especially in Toronto, the animation industry has very tight deadlines. You're very hot and in demand, and it's just go, go, go. And like you said, just try not to get burnt out. Try to have a conversation with your boss where you kind of negotiate how much you can do versus how much they need, and to get paid appropriately for how much you're doing for them. And overtime is a thing, and just be prepared to work.
Great. I think we're almost out of time here. So is there anything burning that anybody needs to have answered at this point? I need to know this so I can get my first job, because these are first jobbers or third jobbers, depending on who you are. Any other things or tips, or what should I wear? Yeah? So the question is, how do you deal with feeling inadequate sometimes, or comparing yourself to others, which is sometimes paralyzing when you're in school and there's so many people that can draw as good as you or better. Any advice for that? And I think that's a great closing question here. Does that pretty much sum it up? Yes.
I would just say, if you're on an interview or if you're presenting your work to someone, you're meeting them, know that everyone feels like that about their work. I don't think the people that you look up to and inspire you and think are incredible, they probably feel like that about their own work too. It's just sort of this thing you have to live with and acknowledge, that you will always be the most critical about your own work. Other people will see the beauty in it. It's harder to see it yourself. But what you should absolutely not do is tell other people everything that's wrong with your work when you're showing it to them. Absolutely don't do that, because trust that you put in the time and the effort and that the talent is there, and let them tell you what they think about it. Don't say, this is my work, I'm not happy with that, and that didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, and stuff like that, because they may not see any of those things that you're talking about. Just, I guess, fake the confidence until you feel it, because other people can see the value in your work, even if you aren't there yet yourself.
You can't let yourself shut down when it comes to that kind of stuff. You need to turn it into productive energy, basically. So if you're looking at another artist's work and you're saying, oh, I'm not as good as that, take a look at their work. Like, say, what about their work is that you really want to, because that's obviously something you really want to improve upon. So say, like, it's a layout artist. You're like, oh, I really want to have, like, good layouts like that. Put some more focused time into, like, your layouts or your character design, or maybe do put a little bit more effort into, like, your animation, and try and, like, I don't want to say compete, but, like, use that feeling to better yourself rather than to just kind of sit and be like sad.
So I can relate to the whole feeling inadequate. Just Friday, I've been in roto paint for like 2 years, and now I'm like slowly transitioning into comp. So I feel like I'm back to square one recently. So you do get those feelings, especially at work. But the best thing for me to do is to just take a deep breath and maybe leave work physically, or just like calm myself down and just like take 5 minutes. Like, it's really important just to take 5 minutes. That way sometimes you can cycle yourself, like your thoughts will get to the best of you, and so you can feel like, oh no, I'm not good enough. But if you just take a breather and make sure that hey, I got this. But a lot of times, a lot of people feel like this with the inadequacy, but it's just really important that you don't I lost my train of thought, sorry. I would just say, like, with what she said was, like, make sure not to make those things vocal, or just don't, like, beat yourself up 24/7.
To add to that, like, feeling inadequate is something all artists feel. Like, I don't think there is one person who would consider themselves an artist who would think that they are fabulous. If they think they're fabulous, they're probably not an artist, because we constantly criticize our own work more than anybody else, and we're constantly trying to think of how we can be better. But the thing is that we are, as artists, are also always growing, and we're also always learning all the time. And like, going to school and learning different things was very interesting in a way for me, because even though I'm an animator, but when I went to school, when I started school, I didn't even know what Conte was. So I'm like, what is this? And they're like, yeah, you draw on this piece of paper. And I was like, what do you mean I draw? This is like charcoal. And they were like, yeah, go ahead. So right now, like, the evolution that I've gone through, like, at first I was like, oh my god, this is horrible. I'm not even going to get into this industry even though I wanted to do it. But it's like, it's a constant thing. So if you when you feel inadequate, I think what I like to do is I look back. I look back a few years and see my work and see how far I've come. And I think to myself, in 5 years, how better am I going to be? Because if I was this bad 4 years ago and now I'm at this spot, how will I be in 5 more years? And that's what pushes me through those bad feelings. That's like, oh my god, look at this person who may be younger than me, maybe more talented than me, but I'm like, yeah, but I'm going at my own pace. This is not a race. We all are going at our own kind of style, and we will reach where we're going to reach at our own time. So it's not that you have to compete with someone, or that you have to feel, it's kind of like how you as an artist, where you want to go and how you evolve, and you take your time, and then you'll see the progress, because time passes, and even though you can't see it at the moment, just look back and take your time and be like, oh yeah, I've gotten so much better.
That's great. That could kind of close things down. If we're all taking a hike, and we all get to see that view, but we're all taking our time, different speeds to get to that view. Anything else, or I think?
The other thing is, I know you don't really notice it when you're in college, but as soon as you get to the industry, one of the big things you realize is that this is a collaborative industry, and the way you're going to grow is by definitely reaching out to those people that are better than you. Like, I was a junior artist, like a junior animator on a show with primarily senior animators, and I learned so much from them simply by asking them. Like, I had one guy who was just absolutely amazing with beautiful combat scenes, and if I went and asked any of them for help, they would gladly do it because they want you to be as strong as possible. So if you see someone that's stronger than you, like, absolutely go and approach them and see what you can learn from them, because you may end up making not only great mentors, but amazing friends through that too.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys so much for being on this panel.